Welcome back to the Law of Karma, Destiny and Choice. Today we will be looking at a subject that may sit deeply with most of you watching, entitled Letting Go. Hello, Sister Denise. It's a pleasure to have you in the studio with us once again.
Hello, Magla. My pleasure.
Letting go. The title itself implies that something happened to us in the past, or someone happened to us in the past, causing some consequence, and because of that reason we're stuck in that situation, and it takes the form of replaying the episode in one's mind again and again and again. Why is it that we find it so difficult to let go?
I think mostly it's because it's a knee-jerk reaction that as soon as there's something that you are attracted to, you take possession of it, or you take possession of a person that you are attracted to, and you think that by liking that person or thing, wanting that person or thing, taking possession of it is the right way to go. But spiritual wisdom tells us this is dangerous, because nothing and no one can ever belong to you for more than just a little amount of time. So the key problem is the attitude of possessiveness. And everybody naturally has this, but you get attached. An interesting way to understand it is you attend a conference, a 3-day conference, you select your seat, and then you go for lunch. You come back in the afternoon and someone is in that seat and you say, oh my goodness, someone's in my seat. It's not your seat. But just sitting in it for 2-3 hours, you started to get attached, because attachment comes by association and by attraction. With a person that you like and you interact with, maybe you get married to or whatever, you think this is mine. Our language said, you don't say this is the wife, because that's considered like disrespectful. This is my wife. So this word mine, I and mine, makes us connect and attach and get involved, and then if the person goes away, you feel it's the end of the world, because my so-and-so left me. This is so bad. What spiritual knowledge tells you is you're an actor. You have a role. Everybody has a role. Maybe you have a role together, but you don't know how long that role is. It may be 6 months. At the end of that 6 months, they go, you go. And you need to recognize time is up, let go. And holding on means you're doing something very negative. You're trying to force destiny to go a different way. You're going to use a lot of energy, take a lot of sorrow, trying to make something happen that cannot happen because it's not fixed in the destiny. You are not as powerful as destiny.
Let's now talk about what is it that causes us to hold on to something negative that happened to one in the past. Could you take us through how that operates, and specifically why we have a vice grip on it?
First of all, we experience shock from it, and we take that in deep. So it's already, you've taken sorrow. It's gone in deep. That means it invades your mind. You start thinking about it, replaying it. It shouldn't have happened. It should have happened another way. How dare this person do this in this way? How dare circumstances be like this? It's not fair, it's unjust. You have all of these reactions, and your whole thinking is based on the principle that if you want something to be a certain way, then it should be that way, and that makes it good and right. But it also means that you haven't understood anything about destiny or about the laws of karma. you're operating on the basis of faulty ideas. Your moral reasoning is off track. This is because you are body conscious, which means that you are operating on the basis that anything that you can experience through your sense organs, you take it to be reality. You never look at the intangibles behind that sense perception reality. And spiritual knowledge says anything that you can perceive through your senses is going to deceive you as a principle. So the practice to protect yourself against this situation is you have to, with everything and everyone, you have to practice to be totally loving and absolutely detached. And you have to practice this day in, day out, day in, day out.
Detached. What is detachment?
Detachment means you can let go. Attachment means you can't let go.
Does detachment not make one cold, distant?
Well, you're balancing it with absolute love. So if you are spiritually powerful and you have good yoga and good study, you are going to bring a great deal of the energy of love into yourself, and you will never assume that the person or object that you like is going to provide you with the nourishment of love that you need. You're taking your nourishment of love from the Supreme Being. So you can give love, you're not having any expectation, and so you're not going to get disappointed. And when it's time to finish, you let go with the minimum difficulty. Otherwise, maximum difficulty. Naturally, there will be some percentage of a feeling of loss, no doubt. This is realistic. But you will be able to manage it because you have always practiced detachment and you have never fallen under the spell of the enchantment of the attraction to assume that it's always going to be there. It's not. And that this is now your source of nourishment. It's not, never was, never will be, cannot be. Everyone is spiritually depleted, no matter how nice they are, no matter how beautiful they are, no matter how pleasant and attractive and loving they are, they cannot fill you with what you need.
Why is it that so few people in the world know that? And why is it that we have an unending pursuit of love from another person that exists from the day we are born until the day we die?
I suppose we have to say that we are living in the period known as the period of ignorance. People are across the board ignorant. They do not know. They're ignorant of the realities of life. They're ignorant about God. They're ignorant about the laws of karma. They're ignorant about their own immortality as a soul.
Okay, so someone can be highly intelligent, extremely wealthy, very good looking, very successful, and be ignorant?
Yes. They know something, but they don't know this stuff. So this information just is not there in the world. Neither the philosophers have figured it out, nor the theologians have figured it out, nor the scientists have figured it out. So we are knowledgeable about material information, but we have no knowledge about the spirit and spiritual laws and God and souls and karma. We have information which is faulty, information which is misleading, which is full of self-contradictions, which is incomprehensible, incoherent, and this causes us to go into blind faith or compartmentalized thinking, something like this. But it is a problem, and it is a direct reason why people's circumstances are going from bad to worse.
If someone has been severely hurt, severely traumatized, suffered a great tragedy in their lives, can one let go of that? Aren't you and that episode like inextricably linked?
Of course you're inextricably linked. At the same time, if you know this material, it is possible for you to work through it. If you don't know this material, you may need psychological help, which will take you some way. You may have some religious help, which will take you some way. If you know these things, and if you have a powerful connection with God, which takes time to acquire and accumulate, then you can manage it, because you will know that this thing occurred for my benefit. If you're coming at it from this position of ignorance about these kinds of details, it's a very big deal which maybe you cannot actually recover from. Along with this period of time being the time when you can make the great good fortune, as we mentioned in an earlier episode, it's also the time when you have access to this information, but then you have to sit with it, study it, work with it in order to take good advantage, and that's up to you. It's also the time of absolute ignorance about these things. So it is said in these kind of spiritual studies that people have the arrogance of science. They're assuming that knowledge of science, which includes psychology and all related subjects, is everything you need. And they just think that because we have this, and we have discovered this, it's all discovered by human beings, brilliant geniuses. If you have this information, it's enough to carry you to a perfect world. But it hasn't. And in fact, the way the world is going at the moment is getting more and more visibly chaotic and falling apart. And science and medicine hasn't been able to fulfill the promise that was anticipated. There's more and more of a craving for something which is spiritual information that is unknown. It is available, but you need to know where to look for it, and then you need to know how to develop it. So this is the circumstance that we're in.
There are many individuals who have been broken by a trauma, pain, etc. And they've been devastated. The quality of their lives have been shot to pieces as a result of something that happened, or someone that happened. How does one, using the understanding of the law of karma, grow? Letting go is part of one's spiritual growth.
You know, one thing we need to also consider is what you're describing as quite extreme cases, although it may be very many. But I think that majority of people who will be watching this program have had bad things happen, but they're not totally broken apart. Otherwise they wouldn't even have a TV set or a computer to look at it with. But everybody has had something that they have to deal with, which is not extreme.
Okay.
By comparison with extreme situations that there are. A person who is really dealing with something that they may feel that at the time it feels like absolute devastation, but by comparison with the rest of the world it's not that bad. Recovery from that is very possible by knowing this and by practicing this, because it engages your common sense. It engages your power of reasoning. So even if you don't have quite enough personal power to manage it, you have the power of reasoning to understand that how you take it is in your hands. There are a lot of concepts that you can apply to your situation that are going to alleviate your situation. And this is going to carry people forward very well. In the meantime, cultivate your spiritual practice, your communication with God, and accumulate the spiritual qualities and powers to be able to actually manage the emotional intensity that you feel, you see. Because if you take like really, really extreme cases, it just is too much for a person to go from that situation to start a spiritual practice. But on the other hand, If a person is in a spiritual practice for some time and they know stuff, they will get tested. And the test can be really extreme. And that test becomes the instrument to carry them many steps along the way quickly. So then it has a different meaning, you see.
There's a very commonly used expression in the world that goes along with forgiving called forgiving and forgetting. What is your take on not forgiving, which we've already covered in another episode, but forgetting?
Very often I hear people say, okay, I can forgive you, but I can't forget this, which means they can't let go, which means they haven't forgiven. They can't forgive, you see, because forgive means whatever debt you created, I'm not going to take back what I'm owed. That's covered by the laws of karma. It's not in your hands to forgive, but forget is in your hands.
Should one forget?
I think you should remember from the angle of once burned, twice shy, that you don't get yourself in the same mess again. So learn from your experience, but forgetting in the sense of holding on to the resentment. You see, because the resentment is really the problem. And resentment is something that is worked on a great deal in addiction recovery programs, because people will give themselves an excuse. I am justified in doing this or that negative karma because I resent what was done to me, and that resentment justifies my action. Actually, it doesn't. Resentment means that you're going to amplify your negative karma again and again and again. So in addiction recovery programs, you have to let go of your resentment. First you have to identify it, then you have to realize that it's not justified, and you have to let that go. So letting go includes that part very much.
Managing one's feelings in all of this also takes a lot of inner work, does it not?
This is why I am very keen on this practice of giving absolute love and practicing total detachment. Because unless you practice it for a good long time, unless you make it a policy when you enter into a relationship, you will have lots of bad feelings, because the feelings are overwhelming due to the attachment and the expectation, and not due to the event or the situation. And you need to know that.
Hold on. You need to say more about that. Not many know and fully understand what you just said.
All situations, no matter how they look, are just, it is what it is. And how you feel about it depends on how attached you are. If you're not attached, you can say, it is what it is, let go. But if you're attached, you can say, it shouldn't be what it is, and I'm not going to let go. You see, and that's called ignorance. So people believe that ignorance is wisdom.
Really?
That's the problem.
When one is aware that one is a soul, what happens to your negative memories?
You become aware that you're a soul superficially, and over time that awareness becomes deeper because you're studying about it. It's a very, very subtle information. Once you are aware that you're a soul, you hear that your memories are there and they will draw your attention, but it's an option for you to tell them, okay, understand, I hear you, I'll deal with you another time, or I've already dealt with you, you can go back home again, you can go back down again. Because memories come up from your subconscious, they occupy your mind and pull your attention, and as you become stronger in terms of your meditation, your choice, your power of choice to not engage in those memories. And we're also in this series talking a lot about choice. There's internal choices going on, You can say to those memories, okay, I know, now you go back home, I know you're there, but we're going to do something else now.
The habit of being stuck in the past is quite deep with people, isn't it? Why are we like that?
It's because this power of choice has not been developed. People don't know that just because a memory pops up doesn't mean that you have to be completely under the influence of it. And so what happens is people don't generally process their life experiences, so they pile up and they come up and they overwhelm a person, and that person is somewhat powerless because they have never developed skills for managing the inner world. So this practice of spirituality involves developing these skills and sorting out what's going on and putting it in the right places so that you're not living in chaos in your mind.
There are those individuals who try to run away from the past instead of letting go of it, and also try to suppress the past. Does that work?
If you try and suppress something, it'll come out another way, and very often it comes out in the form of physical illness. And a lot of people who have done work about psychosomatic diseases have often said this, and a lot of cancers are psychosomatic. So if you don't want to get cancer, don't suppress your memories.
Sure, that is a powerful message.
I mean, it doesn't mean you may not never at all get cancer, but there's an impact.
And running away?
Well, I think you know there's some jokes about that.
There is, yes.
Yeah, but
one can't run, one can't hide.
These things correspond to your shadows. And you can run away from your shadow as fast as you want. It's not going to make any difference. Your shadow will run with you. So these are shadow aspects of your soul. They come with you.
God and letting go. How does that work? Does it work?
One of the messages of God to people is past is past.
That is a very lovely expression.
There's another expression, let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah, except that we wake up the dogs and either play with it or get bitten by them.
Yeah, well, they bark all night and you can't sleep.
Oh, that's stretching the metaphor somewhat. Okay.
Well, because the memories don't let you sleep. So
Let's move from the dogs to God. Yes.
Right. What God tells you, and this is the aspect of destiny, okay? What God says is there is a drama going on and it's predestined. So everything that has happened was destined anyway. You don't know what's going to happen. Once it happens and it goes into the past, you would say that too was destined. So your relationship with the past is, anyway, it was destined. And if you think deeply about, well, it had to happen anyway, any of your thoughts in which you think it shouldn't have happened, you can pretty quickly stop them because your information says, okay, but it did happen. And now it's not happening, so let it go. Stick with, the present. The rest of your life starts now. Use the present moment to plant new seeds and let the old be in the past. Allow it to turn into compost, rather than keep bringing it into the mind at the present, because then it will become something that will nurture you and give you the strength and the experience to handle the things that come in the future, from the future into the present, and you can handle them well because you're strong and you're experienced.
Okay, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you. Thank you. So there you go, letting go. We all have issues with our past. Some are able to let go more easily than others, but ask yourself whether there is something or someone whom or what you'd like to let go of in your life. and use the tools shared by Sister Denise in order to achieve this. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Take care. Goodbye.